By Alan McGuinness. Political reporter Austerity again dominated exchanges at Prime Minister's questions, with Jeremy Corbyn claiming Theresa May's pledged when it is a broken promise in the wake of the budget. The Labour leader told MPs that rather than ending years of financial restraint, the government will inflict a further £4.1 billion of cuts to non-protected departments. Mr Corbyn turned his fire on Chancellor Philip Hammonds' £400 million promise to help schools purchase the little extras they need, saying this would not stop head teachers writing begging letters to parents. The PM said per-pupil funding is being protected in real terms, and she sought to pile the pressure on Labour over the party's stance on tax cuts, asking if Mr Corbyn shared the view of Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell. Mr McDonnell told Sky News earlier this week that he was not against raising income tax thresholds, a move that will disproportionately benefit the wealthy. Criticized by Mr Corbyn for choosing a tax cut for higher earners rather than ending a benefit freeze, she replied, on Monday, he said cutting taxes for 32 million people was frittering money away on ideological tax cuts. Image. The PM said support for public services, growth and wages were all up yesterday. The Shadow Chancellor said Labour would support the tax cuts, austerity, and whether or not it is indeed over, has come to dominate exchanges at the dispatch box in the wake of Mrs May's Tory conference declaration that the end of it was in sight. On this particular Wednesday it was no different. Mr Corbyn claimed prison governors, council chief executives and head teachers would struggle to find much to celebrate in Monday's budget. The Labour leader asked, I would be preparing for more difficult years ahead. Does the Prime Minister think that analysis is wrong? Mrs May replied, we set out more money for schools, more money for prisons. What we have set out in the budget is that austerity is indeed ending. Criticised by the Labour leader for opting for a tax cut for higher earners rather than ending a benefit freeze, the PM shot back. On Monday, he said cutting taxes for 32 million people was frittering money away on ideological tax cuts. Yesterday, the Shadow Chancellor said Labour would support the tax cuts. On policing, Mr Corbyn asked why the government had failed to find a single penny for neighbourhood policing in what he repeatedly called a broken promise budget. Mrs May responded, we did put extra money into CT policing in the budget. That's on top of the £460 million that's been made extra for policing in this year. That is in sharp contrast to what Labour were saying at the 2015 election when they said the police should take 10% cuts in their budget. Mr Corbyn rounded off his attack of the government's record on austerity by saying, now we know councils, schools, police, prisons, public sector workers, and those reliant on social security will face years of austerity. Will she apologise for her broken promise that she was going to end austerity, because she has failed to do that? The PM said support for public services, growth and wages were all up, with Conservative backbenchers behind her chanting their support. Mrs May added, that is falling, austerity is ending. Under the Conservatives the hard work of the British people is paying off. More from Prime Minister's questions. Speaking after PMQs, a senior Labour spokesman said the party will vote against the budget as a whole, but will not try and force a vote on the personal allowances changes, effectively abstaining. They said the party welcomes tax cuts, however modest, for low and middle income earners, even it was its view that including the highest earners in the changes was the wrong thing to do.